got a chance to see Tron Ares with Jared Leto. Let's talk about it right now. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me as we rant about movies, comic books, and television shows, as well as the occasional board game. I'm your host, Frank Zenk. I'm an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, and comic book writer, as well as a filmmaker. And yeah, we're going to talk about Tron Ares. So I am a big fan of the original Tron. I actually had the light cycles. I had the figures. I saw this in the theater, showing my age, and I loved it. I thought it was well ahead of its time. There was no real computer effects at the time, so this, so obviously some of the stuff looks animated because there was nothing like what it has now. But out of all three of them, this one I believe has the first movie has the most likable characters of all of the movies. And some people really like Legacy. I thought Legacy was okay. I think that Olivia Wilde was hot as hell in it. That makes it worth watching right off the bat. But I don't think it had the nuance that the original movie had. So the original movie was a Alice in Wonderland type of thing. It was an exploration film, and Jeff Bridges, just his personality just exuded throughout that film. And to me, that's what is so alluring to fans about the first movie, was the fact that he had this over-the-top personality, and he was stuck in a world where he was dealing with programs. So, and on top of that, he was a god to them, right? Because he was a user. He was one who wrote programs. So we had a little bit of theology in there as well. And then by the end, we have this David and Goliath / Star Wars ending where he's got to put his disc right in the master control with this thing spinning. So it was already like a video game type epic ending where he had to hit the final boss, right? Not only did he have to kill the final boss, but he had to do it in a way where he could knock out, the master control at the same time. And we had never seen things like the light cycles and the disc fights and the high-lie on top of the thing where you can derez the circles, and all that stuff was brand spanking new at the time. And to me, that's really never been done again, like some of that stuff. And he was just playing it like a thing. He didn't realize that he was going to be killing people, even though it wasn't people. But to him, it was, in that world, it was people. Then we had the second one where we had the sun, and we had, rubber-looking Jeff Bridges de-aged. And we have a similar type of thing because we hadn't seen the world in so long. And that one did, all the movies only did average in the theater. None of them really knocked it out of the park as far as financially. And, the original Tron got a lot of merchandising behind it. There was the video game that was in the arcade. They ended up having other video games. They had the action figures. They had a lot of stuff that they did merchandising on that actually increased the amount of visibility to make it a cult film. The original Tron budget back in the day was like $15 million. So for today, from the 80s, you have to quadruple it, quintuple it. So even if you quintuple it, 5 times, it was still under the $100 million mark, and truthfully, I like the suits there better. And it was a very, very simple effect to make them glow. So there was just a lot more that I liked in the original. And I watched the original. I know that Sean Chandler said, oh, it was a hard watch. Now, I watched that thing again like a year ago, and I still loved it. In fact, I was friends with Bruce Boxleitner. Bruce Boxleitner is he's a guy that's very into Westerns. Unfortunately, he couldn't be in my Western, but I did ask him to be in it. But there was a Western luncheon, and I saw him like once a month. Really nice guy. In fact, I still have his number in my phone. And then I did the same convention that he came and helped me out on. Cindy Morgan, in fact, I have his signature somewhere. But Cindy Morgan came and did my convention as well. And, she's amazing. But anyway, she signed that for me. And so it was, Tron has a special place for me in general. It's just the way to do imagination to the nth degree, and you didn't have the budget and you didn't have the effects to do it. So that's why I'm saying it was ahead of its time. So it was almost, to me, it was almost like Star Wars, where, Lucas had to come up with ideas about how to do something. And the same thing here. Now, Legacy didn't have that same type of thing. It definitely didn't have the same types of characters. But then now we, jump into here, where Jeff Bridges still is in it for one scene. But here's the problems with the film now. So, here you had digitization, right? So what they were using the technology for is almost like The Fly. They were trying to create teleportation, right? Almost like a transporter, right, from Star Trek, where they would digitize a person and then reform them, right? So for that brief period of time, the figure or whatever the object was would disappear and then reappear. And they actually use some of the lines, here goes nothing. Well, here comes something, and then Garrett goes nothing, and they use the same lines in here. So the director of this film is Joachim Ronning. He's Nordish. He's from Norway. And he actually has the O with the line through it, which is the giveaway that he's from Norway. But he works for Disney quite a bit. And he did Dead Man Tell No Tales or something like that. He did Pirates of the Caribbean. And then he also did the second Maleficent film. And both of those films are meh. They are middle of the road, right? There's nothing special about them. And then he got the writer Jesse Wagoto and David DeGillo. So there's two of these guys. Jesse did Daredevil Born Again. He wrote a few episodes of that. That's not saying anything. David just did the Terminal List, Dark Wolf or whatever, which was good. That was good. But I think that these guys more wanted to do a throwback than they wanted to tell a real story. Bernard tried to explain the technology at the time, and then we used the same technology in the second one. So there was nothing to explain because you've already bought into it for the first movie. This one is completely different. This one, they're digitizing, they're creating a 3D model, right? As if it's doing a 3D print. And they actually have all of the pieces around it, like the girders around it, like a 3D print. They actually have that where the figure has to break out of this basic 3D print. But a 3D print doesn't have life. It doesn't walk around. It doesn't look like it has skin. It doesn't have metal. You can 3D print something in metal, but they 3D printed something where the figure came, like Jared Leto's character, Ares, literally walks out of the tank, which means that it literally 3D printed skin and stuff like that inside the metal object. What? Wouldn't you need something different? Like if I'm printing things in different colors, I got to have a different ribbon or whatever else, or, to be able to do something in color. Here it was the same thing. It was a laser that just printed whatever. And not only did it print whatever, but it printed life, because it printed, in the beginning, it prints a tree with oranges, which is a throwback to the first movie, because the first thing they digitized was an orange. But they are literally 3D printing life, because a tree is alive. And then on top of that, you're 3D printing the oranges that they're physically eating. That makes absolutely no sense. It doesn't make any sense. So if you're digitizing something and then you are just like a fax, you're just resending it somewhere else, but it has its whole countenance still in it, but it's a digital representation of that, and that's what they're using for the first movie and the second movie. We buy that, but just 3D printing life doesn't make any sense. And nowhere within the film does it even bother to try to explain the technology. They don't even try. They just like, this is it, man. Go for it. Anyway, before we continue, remember to give me a like, give me a thumbs up if you can. If you can subscribe, please do. Ring that bell, ding, ding. Share this video out there as well. And remember, too, that I'm a writer myself, so if you'd like to check out anything that I've written, you can go to Amazon.com. Just type my name in, or there's a link in the description below. You're going to see my 4-novel sci-fi epic series called Destiny Aurora. So if you like Star Wars, Star Trek, Guardians of the Galaxy, you're going to love that. It's an epic space battle situation. And, it was made into a board game, an RPG, a graphic novel. It's on Audible as well, so if you don't do much reading, but you like to have multiple voices, the male and females have their own voices. My YA fantasy, Tales of Ravenor, the Iron Witch. So if you like Game of Thrones, if you like House of the Dragon, Lord of the Rings, I have full magic. We have dragons running around, all that stuff. You like that one as well. And then my new comic, Fairy Tales of Terror, which I jumped the gun on before. That did very well on Kickstarter. We have late pledge up right now on BackerKit. So if you can go to fairytalesofterror.com, you can pre-order an issue right now. It's going to be 30 pages of really nice art. You'll be able to pick out your own cover, all that stuff. I have Psycho Cinderella, and we have Killer Captain Hook, and we have Tiger Lily from Neverland running around trying to chase them and stop them. So it's really cool stuff. Anyway, just go to fairytalesofterror.com. All right, so let's jump right back into the movie. So we have writers that I don't think really understood the world. They literally saw the first movie and the second movie and then decided to write a script on that. Unfortunately, there's no progression of characters here. There's no characterization in general. There's no real arcs here at all. And I think that the casting is incredibly bad. So is it cool to have these things running around the real world? Sure. Only really needed a couple of scenes of that, though. I would have rather have seen the grid. I know it was like a duplication of the other two movies, but I would have rather have seen that. She goes to the grid for all of about 5 seconds and is immediately pulled out. So we never get that fish out of water from her. She's always being protected. And when she's in the other world, she's, a badass bike rider, which that's never set up that she even rides a motorcycle. It was never set up originally at all. And the only thing that's set up with her is the fact that she lost her sister to cancer and is trying to quit the company. That's the only thing we know about her throughout the entire film. And the fact that all of Legacy, which was generally well liked, even though I thought it was average. A lot of people really like that film, and we set up, Sam Flynn, and he's off the board right off the bat. He's already left the company. Nothing. They decided, oh, you want us to continue the last movie? Go fuck yourself. We're not going to do it. We got to make our own characters. Why? I think people would have been more invested in seeing the characters that were already set up. And maybe Olivia didn't want to come back. Maybe he didn't want to come back. I don't know. But then on top of that, she comes in from, which again, the technology really isn't explained, but she comes in from the grid into the real world, and they're together. But here, anything that is 3D printed is gone in 28 minutes or 29 minutes. But that already negates the fact that she's here. And they're looking for a permanence code that Flynn has? Why would Flynn have created a permanence code back in the 80s? He had no idea how to bring something from the grid into our world at that time. They used that as an excuse for him to go into the 80s grid, which I appreciated, but it didn't make any sense. I mean, I liked seeing all the old stuff, but again, it made no sense. And Flynn was there, but I thought Flynn was also in the other grid in the second movie with Clue. None of it makes any sense. It was like they decided that they weren't even going to talk about the second movie, except for the fact that they were eliminating it. It just makes no sense. And so let's talk about the acting. Greta Lee, who is a decent actor, I saw her in The Morning Show. I think, that's a decent show. But for this, she just didn't fit. She just didn't fit. Her voice is too high pitched to be taken seriously as this, head of this corporation and as an action hero. She just didn't fit. It just didn't work. And if you wanted an Asian character, there are other Asian characters that you can do that are Asian actors that you can do for action films. Maggie Q is one of them. And the second one is Gemma Chan. I mean, that's off the top of my head. And they both have bigger fan bases than Greta Lee. Greta Lee has no fan base at all. So you brought in basically an unknown actress to be the lead. Why? Makes no sense. I don't understand the decision making here by the director and the studio, because that's who does the casting. Then you have Jared Leto, and he doesn't have Jeff Bridges. We needed a Jeff Bridges type character here to have that exuding personality. Instead, he's playing the Terminator. He's playing this character with no emotion, because that's basically what the character is, which is why bringing all this stuff into our world and making that the lead is a bad idea, because our main character has no emotion. And Greta Lee did not help him at all. At all. There was no chemistry between them. Period. Just none. And they don't even try to even have a romantic relationship. That could have brought in women. But no, they didn't even bother trying to create a romantic relationship with them at all. He sees all of the, he basically hacks her computer, so he sees all of her pictures and all her videos, and that's how he gets interested in her, but there's no romantic inclination. I mean, his whole thing is that he wants to be a real boy. That's basically, they even mentioned Pinocchio in here. That's his whole driving force, is that he wants to be a human. And I don't know how the technology works, because does he have a full digestive system? What does he have? I mean, does he shit? Does he eat? What does he do? I mean, he's a program made into human, but he didn't start out that way, right? Nobody designed him with a full interior system. Does he even have a dick? I don't know. I forgot what that movie was. I forgot what movie it was where the angels didn't have any reproductive system, and they basically look like Ken dolls. And that's how I imagined this. So I don't know. None of it was appealing at all. But again, I guess you could also submit that to the second movie as well. Does anything work? But Jared Leto, again, you needed another character to banter off the Spock type character. You needed somebody else. And Jeff Bridges was only in the film for 5 minutes. So you never got that. And Greta Lee, again, was not helping him at all. So she doesn't have the banter either. So there's literally just nothing. So the tone of this film is monotone. It's a monotone film that just has pretty pictures to it. And because the effects are good, I love seeing the light cycles and stuff like that. I like seeing the old light cycle that has the full covering to it. All that stuff. And, seeing all these red things flying through the air. And, it also doesn't really have a hero, right? Because Tron was the hero. Even in the first movie, they say, that's Tron. He fights for the users, right? Because everybody else was red, right? And the red guys were the bad guys. Those were the military guys. And he was basically the rebel. He was basically the Luke Skywalker of the thing. And we didn't get that here. All we had was a guy that wanted to be real and, eventually turned blue, right? But we didn't see it. In fact, I think he was white. I don't think he even turned blue. But the problem is I know that Jared Leto is a fan of Tron, which is why he wanted to be in this film. He's also a producer on the film, not even an executive producer, which means he was supposed to raise the money. No, he was in this thing from the beginning as a producer. So, he may have pushed it along. But he should have stepped back, truthfully. He should not have been the lead. But nobody goes to see a movie because Jared Leto is in it. I don't care if he won an Oscar. Nobody cares. Because nobody goes to see him. Oh, there's a Jared Leto movie playing? Oh, we got to definitely go see that. No, man. No. You're better off putting in a Chris Pratt or something to that effect. That somebody that has that personality like the original movie with Jeff Bridges. The other thing is that Tron's not even in this movie. They go back to the original grid, which is a perfect place to put Tron, and he's not even there. So, and that would have been cool to bring Tron into the real world and help him fight. But he only ends up fighting Athena. We never saw that there was even a matchup between them where she beat him. There was no epic battle here. None. And, the Dillinger guy is played by the guy who plays Quicksilver in the X-Men thing from Fox. And I think he was in WandaVision as well. But he's good. I like him, but they didn't give him anything to work with. He basically is typing a lot, getting yelled at by his mom, played by Gillian Anderson, and something happens to her, and nobody cared about that either. Nobody gasped or anything like that. It was like, okay, that happened. She probably deserved it. Was there really any likable characters here? Was there anybody I was really rooting for? Did I really think that they weren't going to achieve the mission? Was there any edge of the seat thing? None of it. None of it. That's why this movie's so meh. In fact, I'm looking at IMDb right now, and everybody's at like a 5. So everybody's like, yeah, this is just an average film. And it's unfortunate that you spent $170 million or $180 million for a meh film. And this thing is, everything about this, I'm not even going to blame the director. because he had some nice shots. This is all about the writing. And no matter how much member berries you threw in there, it didn't matter. So the writing was bad. We didn't know enough about the characters. There was no character arc. Her biggest character arc is that she was going to stay on and keep working. That was her arc. Because we didn't know anything else about her. And again, that character should not even have been there anyway. We should have just stayed with Sam Flynn. And I would have felt a lot better. And Cora, and seeing how she was adjusting to the real world. Maybe they had to go back into the grid and she didn't want to go. There was a lot more that we could have done with those two characters than starting out brand new. The other thing is I didn't have fun. There was no fun in this movie. I didn't laugh at all. There was nothing. It was just no personality to this film whatsoever. And there is a sequence after the first few seconds of the credits, which was interesting, I guess. But again, there's no really hero setup for this at all, because we really didn't have a hero. We had a guy that was fighting for himself. Okay. There was no sacrifice here. I want to be a real boy. Because what if the permanence thing got lost? It was only better for the world, right? And he's like, well, I have to go back because she's at risk, Well, if she died, the thing would die with her. Again, I didn't care. I didn't care enough about her because I knew nothing about her. There was no relatability with her whatsoever. None. So she wasn't a badass. She wasn't extremely smart, or anything like that. Not that she exuded any of it. She typed in and she found this thing, and that was it. So, and she makes video games. How's that going to change the world if she's not around? It doesn't. Again, there was no relationship between them. There was literally, if she died, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. Oh well. So yeah, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10, and I don't think anybody will remember this film ever. It'll just go away. And it's unfortunate, and Leto should have taken a step back, and they should have gotten the sci-fi writer in there. That's the problem. They did not. They had a fantasy director, and they got two writers that have never written sci-fi. That's a mistake. So anyway, that's it for me. Remember to give me a like, give me a thumbs up if you can. If you can, subscribe, please do. Ring that bell, ding, ding. And also, if you'd like to check out anything I've written, remember to go to Amazon.com and just type my name in. Plus, go to Fairy Tales of Terror and pre-order your copy of Fairy Tales of Terror #1, signed by me, right now as well. All right, thank you guys. Have an awesome week, and I'll see you on the next one. And let me know if you guys have seen it. Did you guys love it, or did you hate it? I've seen a lot of reviews, man. Everybody's knocking this shit out of this thing. It's crazy. All right, thanks a lot, guys. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.